and thinking that we're the running the show,
It's
and
Robert, right? Yeah.
there's no way we can change what is occurring now. All right, we are live on YouTube, and good morning, Sharon. Good morning, Bob. Good morning, everybody out listening on ACIM Gather Radio. So grateful for everyone here, and yeah, we're today our lesson is lesson 238, and that's always kind of fun. But I'm just gonna turn over to you and Sharon what's going on with you. And I see you've been traveling a little bit, maybe, or you're planning
Well,
on.
yesterday I picked up a friend of mine that is from Al-Anon, and I had a lot of friends in Al-Anon, a group we would meet for 20 years. I was with them, and then COVID came, and they closed it, and they never. And so I opened up a meeting, but it was on a Friday night, and nobody went. So last night I took my friend Angie called me and said she wants to open a meeting at another place where she goes. So Cliff and I took her out to dinner because if I were going to say anybody that meant like peace to this mind was when I got to Altoona, I was not in good shape. I was in fear. She's a Native American. She calls herself a double winner, AA and Al-Anon. But her and her husband, they looked at me and they said, "You came all the way from Philadelphia to Altoona to find God?" I said, "No, to get my head to stop screaming and to find the program. I wanted God, and I didn't really have, like what you have, Lynn, had a relationship with God growing up. It was more, you say, oh my God, help me." That was my mother, but she didn't like have a daily practice. And honestly, that would be a way now that I would want to raise my children, with gratitude lists, because when you get into the higher realm and you realize that it's really about vibration, the vibrational energy of thought. So the thoughts in the stories that are also, and the attraction to it is insane. It is insane. So don't we all? Yeah, we all do. Yeah. It's like a habit. It's a habit, habit energy. Like it's just this energy that says, oh, come on back. You know how much you like that story. So, I'll tell you, I've also been listening a lot to Ken Wapnick's. He
Mhm.
has one book that I love, and it's called Living A Course in Miracles. And it's the whole course, but he really does um, he gives us a lot of ways to see how you could fall into the ego while you're waking up. And, we all know those ways. And for me, I take responsibility for it. But sometimes it's just for fun that I'm down there. And sometimes I just feel like it's like a contagious thing because we are joined with everyone in the sonship. And so when they're talking about a story, we just need to remain quiet. Just quiet. The quiet center is right here. It's not about the person being quiet because there's really nothing here. But in Kent's journey through the workbook, it's got to be a really good thing for me to read because I am teaching myself. So for a little while, I know you probably don't have this book, Lynn. If you did, I guess you would put it up. But
What
it's
is
like,
it?
it's Journey Through the Text.
No, I do not have that one.
So I'm just going to read the war against yourself is really, I mean, Veronica used to tell me, Sharon, read that, because you get to see how much harm you're doing to your mind by by even judging. And
Yeah.
yet, the only thing I do now when I judge is I start to laugh because it's probably a good defense, but at the same time, it does break the chain from the ego to the self when you start to laugh. Laughter and crying does something to the system that really does make a dramatic change. So, he's saying here I commented earlier that chapter 20 to 22 were an interlude between difficult material in chapters 15 through 19. And the chapters we will begin looking at now in many of his great tragedies, Shakespeare included what is known as comic relief, as in the drunken porter and grave digger scenes in Macbeth and Hamlet. While chapters 20 to 22 can hardly be characterized as comedic, they do serve to lighten the growing tension of our symphony, as was also the case in Shakespeare's plays. One finds a similar device in many dramatically intense operas. See, this is where Ken goes off, and I think it's wonderful to read about it, and I love it, but it's also, I want to get to the juice of it, and I do love classical music, and I do love his love for classical music, but his mind is kind of, I'm also reading, you know, Forgiveness in Jesus. And that's a wonderful book. You know, the only confusion I have in that book, Lynn, is that basically I don't know if I'll have to bring you the questions because I don't even remember what they were. But the point is, in the book, he's telling us basically that, you know, he was becoming a monk and he had a calling, but he always wanted to know that God made him a psychologist. Like that was something, because the truth is, God is doing all of it. God consciousness, not God, you know, the creator, but the consciousness of God. Yes. So very early in the text, Jesus spoke of this being a course in mind training, and that's it, the text. The fear of God, the desire to get rid of it, all of that is in our consciousness, because this book wouldn't be in our consciousness if we didn't have that, because it's really consciousness reading to consciousness. Nobody's reading to a Sharon or to a Robert or to a Lynn, right? So there's a lot of like things in here that I'm not attracted to so much as, you know, the one that's basically, you know, saying the laws of chaos, because I think that was really helpful. But what I find is when I am really judging a brother, I'm seeing my own mind. It's that simple. So if I see a beast out there, that's the beast in me. It's so simple. And yet, the nervous system sometimes just reacts and says things too. And then I look at it and I think, well, that's not me either, because I'm not that. I'm not the persona. The person is just a complete, like a voice box and yapping away. And it's only talking to itself. That's all it's ever doing. Lynn, is it cold in Colorado?
It is cool and rainy, and we start our state fair was this is the second or third day of the state fair. So, you know, that it's kind of cool because usually it's very, very hot and you're just walking through the dust and it's just, yeah. But today, yesterday, and today it's been cool and rainy. And right now the temperature shockingly is 59 degrees.
Yeah, I had to wear a jacket this morning. That's why it's
Oh my
very cold here.
gosh.
That's why I'm not outside, because I just didn't feel, you know, I want to like skip around, but I'm tempted to go back to the simplest book of all, which is, you know, because you have it, Lynn, and we could do it together. Healing the Unhealed Mind. Also, I was listening yesterday. I was at school and I was listening to Robert's readings, and I was just blown away by his readings. They were so good. You know, sometimes when I substitute, I can listen, but I can't talk. So a lot of what Ken's putting in this journey through the workbook is good, and a lot of it is just beautiful words together, but yet not necessarily for me. You know, I want to get back to the obstacles, but the war against yourself is you can only see yourself. That's the only thing that you can do. You cannot see anything but your own mind. What's this say? Wait, Robert put something down. Trump, the book and PDF. Oh, okay. Let me see what this is.
Yeah, he's written several books, Robert had. I mean, on about Trump, about a lot
And
of
I
different
can't get it though. I can't get it. Why can't I get it? Oh, okay. Now I can get it. Maybe I'll read it now because that would be helpful too. I mean, during this time, it is helpful to that's what I did yesterday. I did Dietrich's work because I was used to it. Because I saw myself getting upset about certain things and realizing that the computer's like going, okay, Trump as your mirror. Oh, I'm going to love this. Oh,
Oh, is it a new essay?
No,
yeah, but I can't. Okay, now I have to see where it's not
it's a
coming
whole,
up.
it's a whole book.
Several books. Okay, the ego's playground. This is not the computer that I need, Robert. I probably have to. Oh, yeah. Oh my God, you write like in. You know what? I want to do your book, Robert. So there you go. I think it's just because it's so appropriate, and there's no difference between you and Ken. Not at all. Anyway, this is not an ordinary book. It is
No, I wouldn't read it now. That's for you to read at your leisure.
okay. Well, am I reading it okay or no? Is that
Yeah,
not what you?
He
I
says he
don't
would
even
rather
know.
you didn't read it right now.
Oh, you
That,
want it for me? Okay. All right.
Right.
yeah, go ahead and read Ken, because yeah, I think it's probably might lead to controversy, maybe
Right.
possibly.
Yes. You know, the thing is, Robert, you're right. You know, it's a conflict. It separates us all. You know,
Yeah.
and
This,
that's not what this is about, right? So
this
I'll read it
book,
for myself.
yeah, this book was my own epiphany, not
Right.
something that, and
Well, it
it's,
helped me too. That's why I'm happy because that is one of the things that I was journaling about yesterday. Basically, just saying, what am I seeing? What am I denying in myself? What is it? You know, because I never did the extreme things that these people have done. But if I had the thought and the feeling and the murderous feelings about my brother, I am doing that. It's just that I'm using him as a way to hide my guilt. That's all it is. Oh, Mickey's here. You know, I'm just hiding the very guilt that has to be undone. And it doesn't serve me to hide guilt. So yesterday I was looking at, the judgments of the administration, and I was seeing that I have the monster in me. Now it's funny because in this dream, it looked that I was playing the good guy, right? And my ex-husband was playing the bad guy. And the truth is, I had the same feelings as he did, but I can't say that to my kids now. And Andrew's going to visit his dad. His dad's not physically well right now. And, Andrew had heard that he might be dying, so he's going. That's my oldest boy. He's 46. So I spoke to him last night. And, he's nervous because, my two sons had a challenging relationship with their dad. But getting back to my mind, I thought, how could he do this to me? But he did it for me, not consciously, but unconsciously. Because every time we get in any way mistreated, that is for us. Because you can't mistreat the Son of God. You can't mistreat what's already perfect, right? So, so I think it's important to look at what stops me sometimes. Like, what is it that makes me see that I basically can't let some things go? And what are they? They're always the laws of chaos. There's never a time. So first I spoke about, I think it was last week. Was it last week or the week before? I'm not really sure, but I spoke about the desire to get rid of it, because that's really like the immediate thing. Like right away, like I'll be in so much peace and I'll go turn a movie on, or I'll get something to eat. Why? Because this whole war is against the present moment. That's all it is. It's not a story. It's not about hate. It's a war against the present moment because the ego doesn't want to be found out. Because the ego cannot go into the present moment. That would be impossible, for the ego. So it's important, like when I look at what, desire to get rid of it, I mean, there's so many different I just want to look something up real quick because I didn't come as prepared up as I would have liked to. Yeah. No, not that one. Okay. So like when you look at the laws of chaos, you have to look and say, which one of those laws am I still attached to? And I would say all of them for me. I would say I fall into all of those. We have a fear of the atonement. There's just and I should say I do. And it looks like I don't because I show up. But if I did feel comfortable, completely comfortable with being the son of God, I would probably just sit all day and just meditate, right? Let's see what you wrote here, Robert. Almost everything we need to release originated in some form of misguided judgment. Yeah. And the truth is, like, we don't know what we are even judging. Like, for me, it's always the past. It's a thought that comes up that reminds me, and then we join with our brothers in hell. That's how we join as humans. We join in hell. There's nothing about, joining in judgment, because this is a dream of judgment. That's what this whole thing is, I want to read a little bit about the vision of holiness too, because I am in like the rising consciousness took place a couple of years ago, and I am in that awareness. But at the same time, the underbelly has all of the lower chakra, which is the self-hatred. Because so the self-hatred is still very much like I would say my feet, I can feel like, and we don't do that as course students, look at chakras, but I went a little outside of the box and started to study those chakras, and then took some classes with Corinne Zuko. And all of it isn't even necessary because we're not even there. That's the whole point. Like yesterday, I kind of felt like pulling up a book that wasn't the course or wasn't very wordy. And it was just like, the cosmic joke is you need do nothing. But because we have a chattering mind that, or at least I have a chattering mind that I'm addicted to, I kind of feel like it's important to sit and completely unwind and stop, because the only thing that's stopping me from unveiling all the darkness is the attachment to hell. We don't even realize that. I don't realize that sometimes. Well, but I love my kids, but I love my sisters, but I love this, but I love that. But do you really? Look how quickly something can break. I mean, a relationship is as good as the last thing you said in this world. It's not about love, which is really all-encompassing. So he says in the introduction of the vision of holiness, we come now to relatively happy and light movements in our symphony. In effect, as we study the chapters 20, 21, and 22, they provide a relatively quiet respite from the stern and heavy drama of the chapters on special relationships. Yeah, because today we also do chapter 15 and 16 too. So what he's doing in these journey books is pretty much laying out his format on how he is giving us his, his writings on this, his teachings on, and if anybody knows the course, it would be Ken Wapnick, because he's just, I was reading, I think it was Sunday, Forgiveness in Jesus, and I was just so taken by this man. He was brilliant, kind, and he had so much knowledge of this teaching. So it is the perfect oneness of creator and created, represented by the atonement, that terrifies the part of our split mind that yearns to be separated and free. Now, the thing is, I don't feel terror. So the mind says, well, you're not afraid, but I wouldn't even be in this body if I wasn't, right? So
That's pretty funny, Sharon, because uh, you do feel terror. You just do not recognize it because we're in so much denial.
yes.
But if you stop and think about it, first off, what does he say about it's the same thing as says about anger. Even the slightest twinge of anger is it covering up uh, like vast anger and violent
Yeah.
anger. So even the slightest twinge of fear is
Mhm.
covering up this deep fear that we don't even recognize because we are in so much denial about it. I am in so much denial about it. So
I am too. I mean, like the denial and this chipping away of these layers, that's where time comes in, seeming time that is just undoing. But we have, we think we got rid of something, and sure enough, it pops right back up. And
right,
then
and
we,
you have to look at it, or the thing is, the ego is just so easy to brush off and say, "Oh, well, that doesn't bother me. This is no big
right,
deal,"
that's
and
exactly it.
and and then you just it's like, look away, do not look at this
Yes,
thing. But when I start looking, it does become pretty uh, uh, amazing how absolutely terrified I really am, and
me, me
so
too.
otherwise, there would be we would be in so much joy all the time
That's
if we
right.
were in so much fear all the time.
Yeah.
So that's
And
the only thing
even
to
the fear
notice.
is even like, well, thought is also, let's face it, thought is fear. You know,
Yes,
thought is any thought, if you can stay in the silence. But I mean, the gravitational pull of like, no, go get a piece of a chocolate or go get a whatever it is to distract us from the fear and the terror that the mind feels about letting go of the character, as if we're doing it, when in fact life is really doing it all. I mean, life, God, whatever you want to say. So, but we make it easier when we move away from the attachment to saying, but I want to suffer. I just want to suffer. Why? Because I deserve it. You think that's
well, and also because it's delicious.
it's delicious and
Suffering is
everybody feels bad
delicious.
for me and I get attention and I get love, but it's not real love. It's
Yeah, but you know what? Let us just love that
mhm.
putting ourselves and other people in that situation where they're feeling sorry for us, right then and there. These are all attacks.
They're
All
attacks
these
on
are
us, yes.
attacks.
Yeah, we are attacking ourselves even when we see a brother as a human. I mean, this is what
Yes,
I've been reading a lot of. Like Eckhart Tolle says it. They say it's violent to see. Like if I say to somebody, "You look so pretty today," that's like a violent thing. You want to see
that's a
them.
violent thing.
Yeah.
And you know who would agree with that? Marshall Rosenberg.
Well, just look at how he teaches. This his
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
what came through him is the higher. It's very high consciousness. It's his voice, everything about him. I love him.
I know, Marshall.
But it doesn't mean that we're not on our way because we are. And it doesn't mean that the more honest I get with myself and realize that, sure, I'm holding on to all this crap because I'm scared. Who's scared? Not me, it's the ego. So I have to do what the Course says, just watch it. Watch it. Don't join in with it. I mean, it is an interesting time in history to wake up because we haven't had so much division and violence, and at least in my lifetime. But I'm sure we had something, but I can't remember it being like this. And it's interesting because the divide is within the people, and the divide. So, first off, politics is really personal, and so is religion. I never told anybody who I voted for. I couldn't have cared less. That was just who I was. All of a sudden, the ego's really at its highest, like hate, where it wants everybody to say, "Who'd you vote for?" And if you didn't vote for my person, then you're not my type, then you're not my friend, and you're not blah blah. This is the kind of stuff the Course is saying. You can't possibly be happy here when you have any judgment of a brother, right? You can't, because you're judging yourself. You can't see a brother unless you already have seen yourself. If you see yourself as the Christ, you will see the Christ. If you see yourself as whatever, a crazy ego, you will see that. That is the power of the mind. So it is perfect oneness of the Creator and created, represented by the atonement that terrifies all of us. Now, when I say terrifies, it terrifies us. And I should speak from my standpoint. It terrifies me because it is scary to let go of something that we believe we are. It's like, but it's the attachment to that. So what happens when we do let go of it? Well, a little bit at a time. Every single moment, we need to look at what we are believing and how that is really hurting us, because it's hurting the whole sonship too. Like, the code that Regina had put out from her teaching is all about that. You really don't want to join in with this story ever, because you're disturbing all of the light, in the sense that you are getting a blockage. We are filled with blockages to love's awareness. But love's awareness is deep. It's layered, and it takes as long as it takes, really, because it's a sonship waking up. It's the one God, one mind, one holiness waking up, right? So the one he made is the God that we made of the ego is self-centered, broken into fragments, and full of fear. Why? Because you're in a body. You could die right here, right now. If this is what I think I am, and only what I think I am, good luck. So our insanity is such that we willingly choose the self-destructive and limiting instead of the holy, loving, and limitless. For this ensures our existence as separated entities. The ego's illusory and unholy relationship between father and son is expressed in the fragmented and fearful special relationship, wherein the brokenness of God's Son is preserved, seemingly forever, an all-encompassing self of Christ, not even a distant memory. We continue now with sin as an adjustment, a section that focuses on the ego's dynamics, after which we will turn to the Holy Spirit's answer to the ego's strategy of keeping us mirrored in its thought system of separation, sin, and specialness. Yeah, we're really dead in the ego. We're not in life. We're not living because we're in a robot. And when we step away from the ego, when we're in the wholeness, we are in life. We are living, because life lives through us. But the ego's like a dead puppet. So, teaching myself today, that's what I'm doing. Considering sin as an adjustment reintroduces the theme of change, as the ego thought system is itself a change, an adjustment to our reality as God's true Son, a oneness joined as one. Following the ego, we see ourselves as separated. The meaning of sin, our adjustment then is essentially twofold: the change from oneness to separation, and the change from the mind's thought of separation to the body's experience of separation. And, it's all just habit. I think for this mind, it's fearful to let go that I'll lose something. And the thing is, you're told over and over, you can't even lose this character, because when the character's ready to dissolve, number one, we picked that time, and number two, it just dissolves into what it always has been, right? It seems like the body is doing this and that, but it's all through the imagination of the separate self. If we put our faith in this body, good luck. Over and over and over again, we keep seeing how we lose as soon as we gain. You cannot have pleasure without pain. And the ego mind will say, good, today you'll do all these things that feel good. Well, guess what, folks? I'm doing those things, and there's always a downside to it. So it's so important to just call the mind out on what it's believing, and to realize that we do rule the mind, and we alone can rule it. We can, but we have to rule it in the sense that to be aware that the consciousness that I'm talking about is all me. There's nothing else out there but me. Anyway, there's so much writing in this, and I didn't prepare for it, so I am going to turn to right now Healing the Unhealed Mind, and I'm going to go to some of his questions, because the guilt in the mind is very, very dense. And this guilt, I mean, this is why Ken would always say to people, just take your time. This is a life manual. This is not a book that you just read one and done. This is something that you read continuously. So then the mind will drop into wholeness, but it's just gentle. And it's actually a very gentle book, but if it's read by the ego, it's far from gentle. Anyway, this is a question somebody asked Ken. Increasingly, it seems like every time I have to make a decision about anything, it is torture. It could be the most mundane thing in the world, like where to get gas. And if I choose to get gas in one place, I will feel guilty for not getting it in another, which makes me wrong. Every moment is pressure. And I know that when the breakthroughs happen, they are gone. Yet they come back. It is as if they were a jury up here, and it is nonstop. I see the projections. I see when I walk around the house, things seem fine. Then one person says the wrong thing, and I'm upset, even though I understand that they didn't do anything. I feel guilty for being upset, and yet it doesn't seem as if I ever have a life outside this horrible guilt. Well, this is good to read today, because I think that is true. Like when I fall down the rabbit hole and I'm like judging about what's going on in the world, immediately I'm going to, and you get that energy that's not, it's not the energy of spirit. Spirit has an energy that is so joyful, but it's not joy like a birthday party with presents. It's joy that you know who you are. Happiness is when you know who you are. And when you know who you are and you can stand in that light, because everything is light here. That's all that's really here. This light made everything. This awareness is everything. So he's answering, I'm not going to say anything you do not know. What you want to do, this is Ken's answer, do when I think you are already doing is realize the absurdity of your situation. Your feelings of guilt are really what I described earlier. You are taking the tiny mad idea seriously to such an extreme that you feel guilty about the gas station or anything you obsess about. Something you know is ludicrous. That is helpful because it points out the utter absurdity of the position of taking everything inherently meaningless and making it into something serious and guilt-inducing. All you want to do is be aware of it and not take yourself so seriously, even when you already are being very serious. It feels like a wall that you can't get through, but you can begin to if you realize it is not what it seems. The ego always loves to make up these walls of problems, neuroses, and the like, and then come up with the ingenious ways of breaking the wall down, going around it, or avoiding it entirely. Yet all you have to do is look at the wall and realize its inherent nothingness. I mean, this is emptiness. We are really in emptiness. I am making a big deal out of being this character, having a family, having a past, and it's all empty. I mean, you might as well look at a ghost or anything you can see through. We are, as the Son of God, it's like time to stop all the nonsense that we're listening to, because I feel like I'm talking to me anyway. I'm always talking to me. But the idea that How do you discipline an undisciplined mind? You stop, you look, and you claim it. You claim what you are. You claim the formless being that's sitting here right now. It feels like a wall that you cannot get through, but you can begin to if you realize it's not what it seems. The ego always loves to make up these walls of problems, neuroses and the like, and then come up with ingenious ways of breaking the wall down, going around it or avoiding it entirely. Yet all you have to do is look at the wall and realize its inherent nothingness. This is the gentle laughter the Course talks about. You laugh at yourself for being so serious about nothing, and everything is nothing. Whether you are talking about a gas station, your kids, wife, or self, they are all the same. In other words, don't allow yourself to be fooled by the ego's seriousness. That's the whole point. The ego is so serious. It's serious about everything. If you have a test, it's like in school, it's like, oh my God, I got to pass that test. So what happens when you don't pass the test? Nothing. But it's the story the mind's telling us. And the mind is only talking to the mind because there's no person. There's just false evidence appearing real, which is all emptiness. So what do I need to do? You stop. Full stop. Full stop that mind. That's how quickly you can do it. Full stop. And just sit in the silence. God has only one son. Everyone must be an integral part. However, this is hidden as long as any of its parts is missing. That is why the conflict cannot ultimately be resolved until all the parts of the sonship have returned. Only then can the meaning of wholeness in the true sense be understood. If that passage and others like it are taken out of context, it certainly sounds like the critical mass idea. It is important to remember, however, that the early chapters are not as clear as the later ones. And this passage is from chapter 2. These early chapters also occasionally talk about miracles as something we do, something we perform, while the rest of the course makes it very clear that miracles have nothing to do with bodies. Miracles are not something we perform. They are something we undo in our mind. So the miracle is basically, as soon as you have a miracle, right there, you know you're not in a world. Because you can't say, Holy Spirit, give me a miracle, and then have a miracle and believe the world's real. Because, we don't see Holy Spirit. It's invisible. If we were to take everything we read in A Course in Miracles as literally true, then someone like Jesus, who has transcended his ego and is in the real world, would have to wait for every single person to change his or her mind before returning home to God. That way of thinking is contradicted in the teacher's manual in a discussion of the question, how many teachers of God are needed to save the world? The answer given is one, and that one is not necessarily Jesus. It could be, but it could be anyone, because when one individual mind is healed, you realize that there is no individual mind, no separation, no separate parts to the sonship. Just one. Even in the ego, there's no separation. The workbook teaches when I'm healed, I'm not healed alone. The healed mind realizes we are all one mind and that the one mind never left its source. That recognition is the end of the ego and its world. All right, I'm going to read that again and slowly. When I'm healed, I am not healed alone. The healed mind realizes we are all one mind and the one mind never left its source. The recognition is the end of the ego. So when we see that if our mind's healed, we see that everybody's healed. Because if we see ourselves as awareness, which is our true self, we see everyone as awareness. But as a one mind that fell asleep, there's nothing special about awakening. Awakening is just stepping out of the bodysuit that we claim as us and being, and just simply being, right? You know, the Course in Miracles is very simple, but it doesn't appear that way. The simple thing is that it's all about the holy instant. It's all about the present moment. It's never about anything else. Everything else is just training wheels to get to the one thing. And the present moment, you know, it's a journey without distance. And it's like everybody is in the space, no matter what. If they die, they're still in the space. So it's all the story, and the story that the mind says it, and that's interpretation. Interpretation is the whole thing. If we don't interpret, you know, people get upset when they get old and they stop interpreting things the way they used to. And sometimes they'll say, well, maybe it's Alzheimer's or dementia, or maybe it's just being sick and tired of being sick and tired of a mind that doesn't stop talking. We feel that beautiful essence of God's Son is right here. It's this beautiful awareness. You know, here's a question, a questioner asked Ken. Did it really just happen that when Jesus became enlightened, we all became enlightened? That because of the illusory setup of time, we do not know it yet? Would that be one way of saying it? This is Ken's answer. It is not so much when he became enlightened, because you're always enlightened. That's the whole point. There's nobody that's not enlightened here. Yeah, but they still have thought. Well, thought isn't them, right? So right now, if you wanted to walk away and say, I'm done, but why do I do this work? Because I'm a nicer being when I do this work. Because I show up in a really, really joyful mood and I feel better. But if I'm trying to get like enlightened, that's already like an ego judgment. Holy Spirit doesn't have to get enlightened. We are that. It is not so much that when he became enlightened, he dragged us all with him, implying we did not want to go. It is rather that when he became enlightened, he knew there was no separation, and therefore we were with him when he arose. This has nothing to do with the biblical stories. When Jesus awoke from the dream, we were with him because we are always with him. We are one. Let's just take that in. We are one. That means that there's no end to us and no separate entity in us. That's what all-encompassing love is. And the laws of chaos is something that I need to dig into, because that is where, I think that's where the Course really nails it. You know, the desire to get rid of it, that could be there. Like, no, let me watch that political show. I want to see what he has to say. Do you realize, Sharon, I'm talking to Sharon, that anything that someone says is just a point of view. It's just their opinion, right? It has nothing to do with nothing. It's emptiness talking. Just sit with that. We're all like home already. And, you know, it was confusing to me a lot of times when other students would say, well, I want to just get enlightened. There isn't anything to get, folks. You know what there is? Only an undoing. It's unlearning. It's really turning into the stupidest person or whatever you are, ego, that you could ever be. Because when you don't know, you don't know. And that's the truth. But the I know mind wants to say, but you know that's not true. You know that you know. Well, no, I don't know that I know. I don't know that I know anything. Because everything I've ever thought of is actually made up by me. What could I know, right? Again, we can't understand what this Course is teaching from the world's point of view, but only when we read it as a mind. If the Course is read from the perspective of the body, it will eventually be misconstrued and its teachings distorted. And to add insult to injury, a healed mind would not even ask the question. The healed mind, completely healed, would not be here. I mean, if you had a completely healed mind, you wouldn't have even the desire to do anything but be in this joy, be in this peace. But to claim it is the beginning of it. To realize that that's what we already are, and to not identify as the person, that comes organically. When you really are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Doing the outrageous thing. In the context of not doing anything out of guilt, can you say something about the passage that says if your father asks you to do oh, this is a good one, for something outrageous, you should do it. This is good. Okay, this is Ken talking. Some 100 pages later, Jesus returns to that passage, forgetting he used the word outrageous and now uses the word foolish. I have said that if a brother asks a foolish thing of you, to do it. But he's certain that this does not mean to do a foolish thing that would hurt him or you. Jesus did not mean that you should do something out of guilt, because that's harmful to you and harmful to the other person. The idea is that when someone asks you something outrageous and you experience yourself in a quick opposition, I'm not going to do that. Such a silly thing. You need to realize that this quick opposition comes from the ego. The right mind does not oppose anything. It may not do everything people ask, but it does not oppose. Saying no would always be kind and gentle, even if its form is firmness. Quick opposition is never gentle. Thus, when you find yourself quickly opposing something, I'm not going to do that. The first thing to do is go within, recognizing that the world of outrageous requests you see is an outside picture of an inward condition. Always go back to yourself. I need to always turn inward. I need to stay there. I need to stay in that awareness and be attracted to that, not the guilt, not death. I can't die. But I'm hiding a lot of this stuff, I have conquered so many layers in this dream. When I say I, it's really I consciousness, but so many have don't at all have me react, but there's so many that still do. And it really doesn't matter, because whatever I'm reacting to is just a false claim. It's a hierarchy to believe that if it's about my family, that it's more important than about strangers. There are no strangers, right? A common confusion among students is to think of gentleness as wishy-washy or firmness as an attack. When we are right-minded, we are firm about doing or not doing something because it is the kind thing to do. This is similar to a parent being firm with a child because the child is about to do something that will be harmful to it. You can be gentle, loving, and still. I could probably read this over and over again and say, no, I'm sorry, but you cannot do this. Or you could be firm and have the seeming strength of raising your voice and exclaiming, no, you cannot do this. And if you do it I'll punish you. Jesus models gentle firmness in his course when he does not go along with our illusions. I will love you and honor you and maintain complete respect for what you have made, but I will not uphold it unless it is true. The clarity of his teaching is always kind and respectful. And let's just stop and just look at that. Where have I not been kind and respectful? I mean, if I'm in the right mind, I am not a babbling person. I'm just there. Just this wonderful silent mind. It's really the commentary of the ego that tells us we're not there yet. It's the commentary of the ego that believes that we're not already what we are. Because I have thought, but if you look at thought, that's empty too. And I have thought believed is really what I want to say. And thought believed is just a trap. And this machine, the ego, is nothing but a machine. It doesn't have anything to give. It's just feeding this mind what I've been feeding it for 70 years, right? It's this food of judgment. That's what this is. It's a dream of judgment, right? He says, then too, one does not have to let go of limits in order to be gentle. Another common misconception. So to be gentle is to stop. Stop. Am I gentle right now? Am I patient? Am I kind? Did I pause? You can let go of the limitations of the ego that say you and I are separate. If you set limits and are firm, but are not being gentle, you are saying the differentiation is real. There are good things to do and bad things to do. I am the authority, and I'm telling you that you cannot do this bad thing. Well, there's no love in that, he's saying. But there's no love in that, no shared interest. Instead, you are simply being authoritarian in forbidding the person from performing certain behavior. We cannot be authoritarian and gentle, but we can, as is Jesus, be gentle, loving, and authoritative in a kind way. Am I kind? What is kind? It just waits and it judges not. What attracts people to this course, even if they do not know what it really says, is that it's a clear sense of authority about it, gentle and kind. Yeah, there's an inner teacher. There's a comforter in the course. There's Jesus. You know, it's funny because I didn't grow up Christian, so Jesus was not mentioned in my childhood. But I hear people say Jesus or Jesus. And we always said Jesus, but I could see where it would be Jesus. And all of those vowels, the way we sound them, can be just a change in our direction of knowing that the light is Jesus. He is love. Jesus was a very strong archetype in the West. That's what he basically was. Like God, Jesus looked at our illusions and simply thinks otherwise. He does not threateningly shake an accusing finger at us, but merely says, as long as you are afraid, I will wait. I will not drag you to heaven. Now, the truth is, I'm afraid. I have to be, because I still have, like, there's resistance, and that resistance is nothing more but the ego to, like, I journaled all day off and on yesterday because it helped me put me so much in the present. And then today I got up and thought, I'm tired. I don't need to journal. This is the thing about habits. They need to be done. A habit is, because being in the ego is a habit. The only reason why I'm an ego is because I was conditioned from birth to be a person. So, first of all, there has to be a lot of compassion for this mind. Because if I'm compassionate towards my mind seems to like it. It ends up, when I say my mind, I mean the ego mind. Because we really share one ego too. There's no ego that's worse than another ego. As much as I would like to say, I wouldn't do that. How do you know unless you are doing, if you're put in a position with that script, how do you know what you would do? Remember, everybody here is a puppet of the Christ. But I'm using the ego as a crutch. And you know, folks, the truth is there is no ego because nothing happened. So I don't know, the babbling I had today was a little bit out of sorts, but I still feel so glad that I'm here, so grateful that I'm in this process, and so willing at this point. Willing, no matter what the ego says. I'm willing to just be. Because I feel that the light in me will save this world. Not me personally, but light. Anytime we can cast light on anything, we are saving the world. And with that, over to you, Lynn.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and beautiful sharing. I really appreciate it. Such all so very essential topics, and any one of them, if you have uh, the journey through the text, maybe we can go back and look through like the laws of chaos or something, and see what Ken has to say, or we can do it ourselves, like we're doing with chapter 15 and 16 now.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we could do it ourselves, but I have Ken's. I did it last week. I think it was last week. I did the desire to get rid of it. And I really run it, I tend to jump around when I'm being directed by the crazy mind. But when I'm really being centered, and what I got from spirit was just concentrate on the laws of chaos. That is everything. That is the reason that you walk away from, what you need to do for yourself to set your mind straight.
oh yeah, absolutely. And those laws of chaos and those and the obstacles to peace are two things that, literally, once you understand it, it makes it's so no helpful to notice when we're doing it. So anyway, I'm going to thank you so much for all of this, and remind everybody to please click the like or join, become a subscriber to our group, and you'll get the notifications every time we have a live.